Hey, I'm Deshaun, Spring Developer Advocate. I'm just going to be working through my backlog. I don't have, I don't have, I don't have an agenda or a schedule or yeah, timeline to meet. So, uh, ask questions. Interrupts are welcomed. Um, yeah, I don't have all the answers, but I've got friends. I'll make mistakes. Please keep me honest. And uh, doing this streaming stuff is weird, but I know mom and dad are always watching. So, hi, mom and dad, I love you. And from there, let's go. I'm going to be kind of going back and forth today. I have Java Grunt Juniors helping me out on some stuff, building new Lego enclosures for devices that we have. I can show a picture, I guess, here. And it's been fun. It's time to get to hang out with my son. My other kids are, starting to take interest as well. So it's been a fun time. And this is what it looks like. Those are Raspberry Pi 3s. And then we put a nice little Ubiquiti Mini Flex switch in there. And then there's an Anchor USB power device, USB hub down there, so that we have this little block of compute. This one's, those are only 512 megabytes each. So this is a 2 gig, block of stuff that we can do interesting things with. So this is kind of what's happening back in the closet there. And yeah, and we're refactoring the home lab. So this is kind of the goal, is kind of make things look cool and pretty. Hey, how are you? Welcome in. Happy to see you here. I don't really have an agenda today. So yeah, I'm just kind of explaining what's been going on the last few days. This is kind of what we're doing with different types of devices. So this is Raspberry 3s. We got 4s and 5s. We also have some lay potatoes. These other devices I bought a long time ago. They're also ARM64, and yeah, and we're just doing the same thing with those. So we got that. We got a cluster. It looks like this, but it's got these devices, these late potatoes in it, and I'm just trying to bring this up. So I'm going to be going a little bit back and forth with what I do today. But yeah, let's just kind of give some background, and hopefully that helps. So let me get over here. I just brought up another one. I'm having some networking issues that I'm not sure. I might need to reach out for some help on. So I'm just going to, check the status, see if I can get into these computers, see if they are, on the network the way they're supposed to be. So that's all I'm doing at the moment. So this is a problem. Already, so I just brought this computer up. It's not working. And yeah, this is a similar problem to what I've been having. And I'm just not sure what to do here. So it says I brought it up. It says it's connected, but I can't ping it. And the neighbor, its neighbor, I can ping. So in this same cluster, I did. We got through the freezing problem. Glad you're hanging out. So what I've done here is I've got 4 of these potatoes in this cluster. One of them is working, and then the one that's right next to it's not working. And I don't want to have to reinstall. These are problems that people like you, people like me are facing. And part of the exercise is just reminding ourselves how to deal with networking issues. So here I'm stuck. So I have a Ubiquiti. So I'm going to go and remove it from my router, from my inventory of client devices, and hopefully it will get a new IP. That's all I'm going to do. So it'll lose some of the metadata that I attached, but it should pop up. It should ask for a new IP address. I say that it should, but it doesn't always, because I also ran into this before. So maybe this problem is going to fix itself. One of the other things I was hoping that was going to fix things. Hey, how are you? Annie Tux. Hope things are going well. I need to talk to you about something. So let me do this. I want to send you a message real quick. I've been getting a lot of people. The demand for Tanzu platform engineers has spiked, and I couldn't remember what your current status is. There's I'm wondering if I should forward these things to you. That's it. Should I forward outbound folks looking for Tanzu engineers? Should I forward that stuff to you? That's it. I can ask that. I didn't need to go direct. This one, the one that came in this morning, is a 6-month contract, and I will go ahead and pass that along because that's the least that I could do. So give me 1 sec. I'm going to go ahead and close that loop real quick. I think I remember your link. Oops. I know we're on LinkedIn, but there's another person with your name. Please hold. Here we go. And I'm going to go ahead and forward this over. Oh, of course it's Andy Tux. I'm going to forward this over to the person. Awesome. There we go. I get it. I totally get it. I had another conversation yesterday where somebody had posted a job. It made a lot of sense, right? It's doing, right, with one of the other folks in my network. It's doing exactly what they are good at in their background. But then he's like, hey, no, they're overqualified. I don't want to reach out. But if you're unemployed, right? Underemployment is better than unemployed. Let's get some bread on the table first, and then go from there, right? The market is really, really weird right now. And let me ask, it feels to me like what companies, or at least in a few places, they're shaving from the top and then kind of reinvesting from the bottom is something that I feel like I'm seeing. But I'm not sure. I got a really small sample size. So yeah, I get it. And I want to help, right? The least that I can do, and I think this is the least that anybody can do, is like, hey, you get a lead comes in and your inbox is blowing up. The least you could do is like just have a sense of where everybody else is at, and not even everybody. Like have a sense of what's going on, and to be a connector, I think is it's an important step that anybody can take. But now that you're here, I would love to pick your brain. I have deployed some devices I'm using Ubiquiti for my networking. And let me see if it's back up, because I might have messed things up for myself. Yeah, so it's now not asking for an IP address. So I hit remove on a device. But now I want to bring it back in, and I don't know how to do that. Oh, I don't, section 174, I don't know what this is. Section 174. Oh, but I do know what that is. Okay, got it. Okay, that makes sense. And that came up last week. That audit. Are you doing research and dev? I had that conversation last week. I don't remember what started us on that thread, but yeah, like it's crazy. It's a crazy time. Let me see if I can fix this. I don't know how to, once it's been removed, I don't know how to bring it back. And I didn't want to do static IPs, but I think I might do static IP just to get over this issue. So I think I'm going to just start assigning static IPs. So bear with me. Like I'm going to be switching back and forth. TLDR, companies can't write off devs' work as they're all cutting devs. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I got a little tickle in my throat. Yeah, this is interesting. This is interesting. So I know in a couple of roles in the past, like depending on the role that you were in, your work was bucketed into these different things. So is that section 174? This isn't a new thing, right? This is something that's been around for a long time. Let's go. I want to go peek here. We got a clarification here. Yeah, research, R&D, under section 174. I think I've worked under that. Irish right propose. All right. The research provider bears financial risk. The research provider has a right to use any resulting product in its trade. Okay, yeah, I think this has been around. Oh. Okay, so there's been some changes, but I think this section 174 has been around for a long time. Oh, oh, so that is, this specific is something new. Okay. Okay, thank you for that. All right, this is into another reason, underlying reason. Sometimes as a developer, it's we don't think about the game being played above the game, right? It's really easy as a developer to say, hey, this is what I do, and this is what I'm awesome at, and this is how much I'm worth, and I could go make this over there. Absolutely. And sometimes, most of my life, I wasn't paying attention to how I was being positioned, how I was being used in the game above the game. And that game, right, has different rules, right? That's what we're looking at. I don't even know the rules of that game. And understanding those things, right, you're kind of shedding some light onto some of those rules and how that might affect how I'm being used, in that game. So, yeah. Big cuts started early last year when they realized they'd need to pay taxes on folks. Yep. It's been around. The stupid part went into effect FYI 2022. Got it. So this concept of, research and development being taxed differently, that's been around for a long time, but there's some specific guidelines brought up in this section 174. So that makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you. Right. This is another thing that I've learned. I didn't know that there was this new guidance that was affecting our environment or our ecosystem, the one that you and I share. So I've done this, and you're saying, hey, static IPs. So maybe I just need to bite the bullet and assign some static IPs. Let me see if that helps. So I'm gonna do a fixed IP address. I'm gonna make sure that I've got an IP address. Let's try it. 10.99.1.175. Should I do a local DNS record? No. Let's just apply those changes. Let's see what happens. I didn't want to do that, but it is what it is. And in the way that I'm doing things internally, maybe it won't make that big of a deal. So yeah, I did something because I removed it from Ubiquiti. Now I don't know how to add it back in to get this IP. Wait, now it says it connected. Connected 1050. No, that's not the one. So I shut down. It came back, but it's not. Wait, what happened? I hit the apply fixed IP and it's not showing up. Let me try that one more time. .99.1.175. Apply. Maybe. Yeah, something. Oh, so it says, yeah, cool. Let's see if that comes up. But we're refactoring the home lab. We're going to, mess around. The other thing that I'm looking at is this. This is just cool to me. I'm going to go here. Right, this idea of like how easy, hard is it to onboard, and yeah. Oh, maybe something happened on that IP address. Nope, still doesn't have an IP address. Let me see if I can do it this way. Okay. Oops. Negative. Blast. I don't know what I've done. And now I'm afraid that hardware ID, the Mac ID, how do I bring it back in, right? Ubic add device that has been removed. And delete the device. Yesterday, I deleted a switch. I saw emergency. Now I did a factory reset, restarted the cloud key. I want to reintegrate the switch and forward the controller. Do not see the device. Where can I find a list? Now everything works fine. I bought a new switch. 5 minutes, everything is perfectly integrated. What? That's not the answer I want. Here's a help on how to reset Unify, how to reset devices. You need to forget the earlier adopted device. After that, you can adopt it again. Okay, I want to not on the switch. So R&D historically was a 100% write-off, not anymore. So there's like a percentage of it. Let's see. That would not connect correctly. Try to refresh, disabled. I try to connect it through add device. Try this process. Delete the device. In the device's UI, disable the UNMS. Take the generic, insert into the device. No, that's not the one. That one's not going to help me. How do you remove an old device? Dormant device, remove device, cannot add auto. Here we go, maybe this is it. After unexpected reboot, I'm unable to add back some devices that were being monitored. Found this in the log. Found remove device with incorrect state. Discover devices without selecting monitor device. Connect them, they appear in devices. How do you do this? So for years I've said, hey, yeah, I know. Excuse me. I sent the person that reached out, I replied to their message with your LinkedIn, but I will send you theirs as well. Actually, I'll send you the message that I got. And I'll do it over on LinkedIn. So please hold. Are you in my, are you on Discord? Anytux? I think I'm in yours. Maybe not. By the way, let me do this. Twitch. See, I'm getting used to the whole like streaming thing. I'm just doing this. Oh, here we go. But what I want to do is this. I want to do shout out to Anti-Tux. Known him for years. He's a big part of the Cloud Foundry community. And he's also an awesome streamer. Me and my son. Wait, did that not come up? Oh, that only come up over here. He's also a moderator here on Twitch. And me and my son, he does this overclocking. And it's amazing. And me and my son would just literally, eating popcorn and watching him do his overclocking experiments. And that was an awesome, part where my son was staying up late playing Minecraft and stuff, and we were watching Andy Talks doing his streaming. But then later, again, I took my son on a road trip. Kind of had like a father-son road trip kind of thing. And Andy Talks was streaming while he was on his road trip and just entertaining me and my son while we were on a road trip. So we've had lots of cool, like, it's weird, like, doing the streaming friendship, but it's been awesome. And so I'm a fan. I check out his streams whenever I can. He's one of those people that can, he's got a high production quality. He's always doing good things, and he thinks out loud. So he's just fun. You know, you don't have to be 100% tuned in to get value out of his streams, and that's what I try to do. I try to be like that. Is you know, I want you to just have something on in the background, and yeah, go from there. So I don't have the stuff set up. We'll get to that. That's also on my backlog, is having those the bots set up, but I haven't got there yet. I did in the past. I just haven't gotten back to it. So I still don't know how to bring my device back, even after assigning it a static IP. I'm not sure what I need to do to get it back in the fold, and unblock it, unremove it. But we'll circle back, right? For the years that I thought I had all this good, you know, I could talk the talk, you know, a little bit around networking. I'm realizing that, yeah, maybe not. Yeah, I just want people to have fun and learn, right? Make myself available too, right? I'm trying to, like, I don't know all the things. I know a lot of times, like when I saw Josh Long, when I watched him present, I thought he knew everything. He knew Spring inside and out. He knew all the, there's a lot to learn, and nobody can know it all. So I'm still learning, right? I have things that I go deep in, and I'm still learning. I'm trying to, you know, get that T-shape. I still want to know a little bit about a lot of things, but I go deep on some things. So this is the thing that's at the top of my mind lately, for a couple of reasons. This developer concept, developer onboarding. If you've ever had a big team and you've ever had to onboard people, right? It's kind of a interesting metric. Like, how long does it take you to a new person that joins your team? How long does it take them to push something to production? How long does it take them to do a git commit, deliver a feature, deliver a bug fix, bug? How long does that take? I think that that's an interesting metric, and I think it always has been. And every role is different. But there was one point joining a new team where they just like, hey, it might be 2 months before you get something committed into production. What? Then that whittled down to 2 weeks. Like, so as the team is growing, you're adding people to try to help you with for some reason. And if it takes them 2 weeks to show their first commit, that's a big deal, right? Harpreet, good morning, or sorry, good evening from India. It's 11:19 here in Kansas City. But yeah, this metric, how long does it take? So keeping that in mind, you know, and sometimes I say like, oh, look at this Flyway. Yes, a part of another community, somebody asked that question. So I was actually, let's just do that. Let's do two birds in one. Let's go and let's say that we're a company using Flyway. Let's say that we're a company, right? I'm using Spring CLI, and I'll do the quick overview. If you're landing, right, we talked on this stream, I have this GitHub concept of Deshaun Dash Cloud, right? No matter, like, this 2 weeks is a pretty impressive turnaround, right? I think that 2 weeks is way too long, because here's why. If you're bringing in somebody, let's say, here's my example. Let's say we need to ramp up from 4 people to 25 people in a quarter. From 4 people to 25 people in a quarter. If you're bringing in somebody, let's write this down, right? The onboarding, the example. We need to increase our team from 4 to 25 people over 3. Let's not even say 3. Let's say 6 months. right? Like times are tough. Like things are crazy. And let's say currently new whatever developer will take 2 weeks to make first commit to production. Why? Yeah, so look at this, right? Are we talking solo or pairing, right? That's a fantastic question, right? If pairing, it should be a day or two, right? Absolutely, right? So that is awesome, right? That's absolutely awesome. And I'm on the same page there. But let's say, like, here's where what are the options, right, for a 2 week onboarding? Do are we? Is there classes? Is there classes? Online training, workshops, or other? Like, what are they doing for their first 2 weeks? I'll tell you my experience. You know, was like getting access, setting up the local dev environment, finding all the things like documentation, best practices. Like, this was a big part of it. Like, what are the tools? What are the tools that I'm using? What do we need? So when I, was a part of a team that was growing, I was trying to do these things. The main thing that I was trying to address was this: setting up this local environment. So the experience that's kind of like stuck out where I have the scar tissue is this one was kind of, it was pretty good, right? The wiki and the documentation stuff was pretty good. It was Confluence, right? And you could pretty much find the things that you needed if you knew where to look, and it was pretty good. But this was hard because the system that we were working on was massive. It was ears and microservices and Oracle and all the big things that you'd expect from an enterprise product. But still, 2 weeks was tough. And what we did here was set up remote VMs. That was my solution. It was like, hey, you don't need to do anything. You can, git commit, and your code will show up here in one of these environments that's been created just for you. So it had all the VMs needed to run all the stuff. This was, it wasn't Cloud Foundry. It was heavily influenced by Cloud Foundry concepts. Like, things were moving in that direction. And in another part of the org, Cloud Foundry existed. But I didn't have access to Cloud Foundry. So I was doing this self-provisioned, automatic provisioning of VMs, and Bash, right? And Runway or Rundeck to deliver these things. So that concept, like, hey, I mean, with CF push, it's right. Hey, here's your space. Like, CF push, you're good. So there's these different concepts, but beyond just the local dev environment, right? We have CF today, right? Like that's a thing with Cloud Foundry. So getting up and going on Cloud Foundry developer environment, like, that's not a big deal. And right, Karifi, like, if you want your local environment to look like Cloud Foundry, you can do a lot of the same things with Karifi on a local Kubernetes cluster. But there's more, right? There's more than just having a place to, see your hello world running. Where do you get like the best practices? Like, does your company do reviews? This is the part that I have just a thread on today. Like, where do you get best practices? Where do you get current? And does your code reviewed? Like, where does this stuff exist? So this is why I'm excited. This is why I'm excited about Spring CLI. This like bootstrap. Well, a lot of folks that I hang around with have heard of start.spring.io, where we can go here and I can say, hey, this is the kind of project I want. Of course, I'm using 21, and the things that I kind of do by default is I want to grab a web and I want to grab an actuator, and I'm always doing the Graal VM stuff because I take stuff to Raspberry Pis, but there's some defaults. And one of my other defaults is like, hey, I'm going to do Postgres and Zipkin. And I think I want to do this, distributed tracing and Zipkin. This is what my projects look like today, because this is kind of where my default is. Like, we've learned these are the things that we want in order to have stuff running and supported in production. You kind of check these boxes. So I can make a Confluence page that says go and do all these things, and start.spring.io will actually generate some stuff for me. Like, hey, here's my repo. It's got a little project for me. It's got the Maven wrapper, so I don't need to do anything else. The Maven is even in there. So as long as I've got a JVM, I can go and I can run this project. Josh, he said I could zip this project up and I could email it to you. And as long as you've got Java, you could run it, right? Making it easy, to move. It gives you a nice little start. So, hey, here's the start. And because I use test containers, and one of the other cool features with current version of Spring is it's going to do this. Oh, it didn't do the, because maybe I didn't add test containers, right? When I'm bringing in Postgres and Zipkin, I want to do this, of course, test containers, and I just saw that because that's another one that I do by default is Spring REST docs. Now this is going to look like the stuff that we've done here on, my streams. This is an example of what my dependency tree looks like. Rarely do I bring things from outside, but now let's go look at that code. It gives me like, hey, I've got an application, I got a context, but then I also have I have a test context. So I can git clone run, it'll stand up a Zipkin instance, it'll stand up a Postgres instance. So even the infrastructure, right? Even the services that I said that I'm going to connect to, it gives me a reference implementation of those, and I get it out of the box. So this is a great starter. Let's just do that. Let's go ahead and download this, whatever it's called. We're going to redo this, right? So like from there, replace it. Let's just go and take a look. Like this is it's kind of a big deal. It's a nice feature, right? Let's do this. Do I have a demo directory? Zip demo.zip, and let's go in there. And here's the cool thing, like out of the box, if I do /mvnw spring -boot, this is the Maven plugin for Spring, and I say test-run, this is going to run that test application. Let me just double check one sec. SDK use Java, or let me look. I don't know what's my default. Sorry, Q. SDK list Java. I want to use the latest and greatest. I'm going to use Liberica. We have 21.0.2. Let's grab this one. This is the latest. And let's just make sure we're using that. SDK use Java 21.02. Cool. Now, I've got a Java. Let's do this. mvnw spring boot test run. There's no code here. There's no business anything. This thing is going to stand up. What it's doing now, it's standing up a Postgres and it's standing up a Zipkin. And by default, all those things are looking for Postgres on default ports. But it's doing that for me. So if my production has Postgres and Zipkin, my dev now has Postgres and Zipkin. And for people that have been using Cloud Foundry, this is absolutely kind of the experience that you want. So the first time, because it was pulling down those images, it took a little while. All right, but I can cancel that. It'll take a sec. But it started up those instances for me. And when I stop, they will be down. Did that go? No, there we go. So let's take a look here. This is a big deal, right? This is a, thank you, Spring Team, for making my life so easy. Right, this is exactly what we got. And again, we still haven't done any code, but I have all of these things. Everything looks good. I brought in test containers. Now, normally I don't use mock MVC, so there is one change that I would do there. But yeah, we're doing our stuff. I didn't do anything, but what that test run did is it ran this test demo application. So what it said is, hey, I'm going to stand up a Postgres, effectively. I'm going to stand up a Postgres using Postgres latest, and I'm going to provide this service connection. So I'm going to provide all of the connectivity, right? The username, password, port, etc. I'm going to provide that to your application context. So you get it. So your data source gets configured automatically. But then it does the same thing for Zipkin. It creates this service connection where it's going to have, hey, here's the username and password and the port associated with this Zipkin instance. And I'm going to make it available to that context. And then here, because remember we did test run, we're running this application. It says, hey, from the main application, from this, right? So it's just calling out to this application, but it's using this context. Awesome. So if this is your starting point, you've got connectivity, you're connected to a database, and you're in great shape. But that still doesn't tell you, like, how do we build things? Right? What are the best practices? Like, here's another example. Like, what are the supported patterns? So Harpreet says, I have an existing project with a database schema. How do I integrate Flyway mid-project to manage the future database? So let's do this. I'm going to put this over here on my to-do, and we're going to get to that, Harpreet. Flyway. Because I think that there's actually somebody else that's maybe in the same spot. Let's do that. So let's go here. I think we can do this both at the same time. The question here is, what are the best practices for handling the existing schema and ensuring a smooth transition? Okay, I think I'm on the same page. So we already pulled in Postgres. Maybe that's what you're using. What are those supported patterns? Maybe Flyway is the way that we're looking to do things. But starting here isn't enough. Starting here, it's not really enough to say, hey, developer, yeah, here, if I give this to developer, that doesn't give them a whole lot of insight into how things are done going forward. Now, I'm going to jump into Spring CLI, and I'm going to talk about why I love this. Here's the concept. What if, for these supported patterns, what if Harpreet and Annie Tux gave us some code samples that not only say like, hey, here's the dependencies that we use. Here's the infrastructure, connecting services, backing services that we use. What if we gave them, they provided some actual example code? It says, here's how we typically implement things. Here's what we're looking for when we do a code review. And we're measuring, productivity and maturity of the code that we're taking to production. Maybe it's certificates or whatever it is. Here's what we do. Wouldn't it be cool if, as a developer, I could just say, hey, I want to build a REST. I want to build a REST API, for example. Spring CLI has this concept. Now, I've made some changes here locally where I can have these project catalogs that have not just the dependency matrix that we support, but working code. Again, sorry about my throat. But working code that shows us, hey, here's how we do things. These are the best practices codified for you to use. So I deleted the one that you get out of the box with Spring CLI. And all I did was I copied those examples and I put them into my own project catalog. So with Spring CLI, you get some of these examples out of the box. So here's the catalog that I copied. I didn't implement everything, but I want to show you like this concept. Here's the catalog. And inside of that catalog, here's what's on the menu. We've got a RESTful service. We got something using JPA. We've got something that does scheduling, config client, Eureka. We have these examples that aren't just dependencies, right? They're not just providing the stack and telling you what the backing services are. They're actually giving you code examples. So here, this is why I changed it. They're using Spring Boot 3.1 and right, 3.2 has been out for a while. 3.2.3 is going to be out on Thursday and it's using Java 17. I have a hard time. I want to be on the front edge. That's all. That's all. So I copied some of these and I upgraded them and I put them over here. So looks very similar. I've got this project catalog. And you could too, of here's how we do things. We're supporting Spring Boot 3 in production. We're using Java 21. This is the supported way forward. And here's an example project that tells you and gives you code examples of what we're doing. Now here's where this is where my mind is blown. I already created a project. I already had something. Now, Harpreet, pay attention. I already had something here that was working, but I want to add this. I want to add. I created a base project, but I really want to do a REST service, and I want to add this. So I'm going to do Spring Boot add. I'm trying to remember the command line again. I'm still learning. Let me go back here, adding to an existing project, using boot add. I go, hey, I want to add this project type. Oh, I can do it from the URL, but I want to add JPA. So that's all I need to do. So in my project list, let's do this. Let's go Spring project list. And let's see what's on the menu. And I want to add this Hello World RESTful service. I want to add web. And because this is the only project catalog, when I do this, I go Spring Boot add. Wait, no, I'm gonna do one more thing. Git init. That's a init because I want to be able to show the deltas because this is pretty awesome. And let's do git commit initializer. This is what I got out of the initializer. We didn't do any code change yet. Tukes. I know it has been a long time, and I am trying to make the morning sessions. This is the way I want to start my day. I want to be here to answer questions, to explore. I'm going to just work through stuff on my backlog, and that's the whole idea here. But I want to start my days. If I want to get better, every rep counts. So what I'm doing right now is I'm working through the backlog. I have some topics, but I'm also going to try to address these questions. And luckily today I can do two things at once. I'm talking about Spring CLI and how we might be able to pull in something new into a project. For example, Flyway, right? So I want Harpreet and folks from my other community here, I want you to, just for now, like imagine that we're trying to pull in Flyway to an existing project, but right now we're using Spring Web. And we're doing a RESTful service. So I'm going to add these. I'm going to git commit initializer. So that's what we got out of the git status. Okay. That's what we got from Spring Initializer. But we want to add something like Flyway. In this case, we're saying that REST service, we did Spring project list, and we're going to add this. We're going to add web to this existing project that maybe didn't have it. We already had it, right? You saw me pull in that web actuator for the Spring Web MVC, so it's already here. But this is one of the things that makes the Spring CLI absolutely cool. Whoops. Oh, here's my example project that I made. And let's go over here. And it's got its group ideas, com.example. I missed an opportunity there. But it's bringing in H2, Spring Data JPA, etc. Let me go back to my catalog, the REST example here. Again, I missed an opportunity to show you one of the cool features. But this one's doing com example. It's bringing in starter web and actuator, of course. And it brings in, I'm interested to see what this is doing. It brings in my configuration. So this is the way that I set up my Spring Boot Maven plugin. This is my conventions for how I go to production. And there's some others in here. The way I do versions, the way I name my artifacts. These are my conventions. So starting from something that was done with start.spring.io, I want to add these other conventions. So let's see what happens. Spring boot add. What did I call it? Was it web? Let's see what happens. It says getting this project that we just looked at, refactoring the code base that's to be merged to the package. So if my code base here in this project was com.javagrunt, it would actually refactor all of my com.example project. Source, right? These are all com.example. If my current project was com.javagrunt, it would have refactored this code and pulled it in under com.javagrunt. But let's see what happens. Git status. Let's see what it changed. So it gave me a README specific to those bits of code and what it's providing. Here's the example. It also added some source. I've got this greeting now. I've got code that shows here's how we do things. This is how we go to production. This is the best practice. And there's more. So there was nothing else to merge. So the one thing that I was kind of hoping that it did, I didn't see. It didn't merge anything with the Maven repo. So maybe that's something I need to add. You know what else it didn't do? It didn't bring in my conventions around my Spring Boot Maven plugin. So again, it's a new project, but that's pretty easy for me to do, right? I can upgrade that fairly easily. But this concept of having these code samples is pretty awesome, right? That's a big step away from the initializer. So if I can deliver not just here's the stack, here's what we're doing, I can deliver code examples that go along with that. That's pretty cool. So let's go back to this concept of Flyway. Like, let's say that we have Flyway. We want to add. Let's just do that, right? So here's how I do things, right? I go back here, and I'm going to go. Maybe I'll add a dependency, right? There's a Flyway migration, and I'll explore. And that Flyway piece, I want to add Flyway core. And what else? There's nothing else there. So it's add Flyway core. Well, let's take this a step further. Hello, Jonas. Welcome, welcome. We are talking about, look at this. Hello, hello. Let's talk about what if I want to add Flyway to an existing project, right? This is Harpreet's example, right? I have an existing project. I want to add Flyway. Let's just see if we can use Spring CLI to help us do that, right? While we're having fun, we're going to see if we can address this concept. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to my project catalog, and I've got things. I'm going to make a new one. So let's go here. This is cool. I hope everybody agrees. This is cool. I'm going to go one step further. And I'm going to blow your mind because we started with initializer. We used Spring Boot add. Now let's do this. Let's go Spring Boot add JPA and watch what it does. So it's not just like one-off. It's not just initializer. I can take bits and patterns from other projects and I can bring it in. Now look, it didn't stomp on each other. Now I've got the customer example that's using Spring Data JPA included in my project. Like, are you serious? How cool is this? And it merged it, and it's got all my packaging and stuff set up. And it also merged in the dependencies that I need. It brought in the dependencies that I need from that project. How cool is that? How cool is that? So we're digging in, right? Like, interesting. That's something. Hey, yes, let's take a look. Let's do it together. I'm glad you guys are here. I am excited about this Spring CLI and the concepts, because if we're going back to this experience, like, hey, where do you get the best practices? Where do you get the code example? Because initializer is great and it gets you started. But if I want you to be productive in less than 2 weeks, something like this is really going to help, right? Oh, absolutely, right? Like, absolutely. I get it. Go. Jitter Ted is amazing. I highly recommend you check out his content. TDD all the way. And Ted's also going to talk about pairing, right? So Andy Tux, right? We're in here. We talked about like, hey, 2 weeks to get something in production. If you're pairing, that's probably going to be a day, right? You're going to get paired with somebody that already knows how to do things, and we're going to be productive. But not everybody's doing that yet. So pairing TDD is definitely, good approach to go forward. But yeah, we're doing cool things here. TDD for the win. So let's say I want to provide best practices around Flyway. And I want to make it so that if you want to add Flyway, that you can do it easily, like this. That's where we want to be. It's not just about, hey, you can go over to start.spring.io and get that Flyway dependency. That's not everything, right? So Spring Initializer is nice, but at some point you'll create a CLI or use Maven archetype to create a template service by a single command. Yeah. So you can do things. You can have these CLIs and the bootstrap. You bring up the Maven archetypes, right? Those bootstraps. So these could be Maven archetypes as well, but there's a difference here between what the Maven archetype is doing and what we're trying to do here. Because on a Maven archetype, you can't add, right? This is a game changer. You can't, if I was going to the Maven archetype approach to use that as my tool of choice, what I would have to do is I'd have to have like a AI with JPA, a JPA REST. I'd have to have a GraphQL AI. I'd have to have all the permutations. And if you've done the Maven archetype list, you'll see a ton of permutations out there, right? And I've seen that. I've gone down that path. But the way that this is looking at things is what we expect to do from the command line is a little bit different, right? Maven, again, yes, Maven archetypes can only copy paste. So we're saying like, hey, it's 2024. We should be able to do a little bit more. We expect a little bit more. And so do you, right? So I can have these concepts, these best practices. Now, what if, right? If I pulled Maven archetype from 2 years ago, and that's what I'm taking to production, how do I update? How do I get on to the latest and greatest? Like, how do I take that thing that went to production using that archetype, and how do I keep it current with the best practices? That's where we're going. We don't just want to get code to production. We want to have code that's maintainable. So here we are, we're running into a perfect example of, hey, we've grown and now we want to add Flyway. How do we do that at scale? How do we make it easy to adopt, easy to integrate for everybody that's already following patterns in our org, how do we do that? So hopefully you're with me here, and that this is a really exciting way to move forward. So let's close that example and let's go through the same steps that I've been doing lately. Function project catalog, and let's do this. Let's make a new one. This time I'm going to use start.spring.io. We're going to close this one because the only thing. Let's refresh. We're going to do Maven. Hopefully that's okay. You have options. We're going to use Maven. We're going to do 322, but I'm JavaScript. And I'm going to do this .service demo service. I'm going to use Java 21, and I'm going to come over here. And the only thing I'm going to put in here is Flyway. Let's see what that looks like. Does it do anything? Here, I've got a demo application that'll start. I've got some application properties, and I've got some folders. All right, so a great place to start. But I do have the POM. So let's just grab that. Let's close this. I'm going to rename it to Flyway. And I'm going to generate that project that just has that. So I remember that Spring did a project for migrating to newer versions automatically. Unfortunately, the project didn't quite work out. Well, I have a lot to say here. This is the upgrade automatically thing. This is my jam. So I'm going to go through this example. Actually, no, you're going to see it. You're going to see it in just a sec. Watch this. Yeah, watch. So I'm grabbing this Flyway project. I'm going to save it. And then so I can keep myself organized, I'm going to unzip that Flyway zip here. And I'm giving us a base project that starts with Flyway. And in that project, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run Spring Cubed. Now you're asking yourself, hey, what is Spring Cubed? Watch, I have this alias set up. If I cat bash profile type grep Spring Cubed, I have this alias set up that runs. So this is the Spring Cubed alias. It's running this open rewrite Maven plugin. And here's the recipes, this rewrite Spring set of recipes. And it's saying upgrade Spring Boot 3.2. So let me just go ahead and I want to show that example because this is what I do. I'm going to change this back to 3.0.0. I couldn't do that on the initializer because that's not supported anymore, right? Right, the support for Spring Boot, spring.io/projects Spring Boot. And I talk about this all the time. And I know a bunch of you are tired of me talking about this, but this is real. This is what's happening. So 3.0 is no longer in commercial support, or is no longer in open source support. So on the initializer, you can't create a Spring 3.0 project, right? We're on 3.1 and 3.2. So you got to be using Java 17 at a minimum. But I changed that pom.xml to say, hey, we're using Spring Boot 3.0.0. And what I typically do, I have that, I run it so often that I have it set up as an alias, Spring Cubed. Go and upgrade this project up to the latest, 3.2.2. And it goes out, it pulls all those recipes, and it applies them. And it knows how to go from 3.0 to 3.1, from 3.1 to 3.2. And I'm on the latest and greatest. It's a nested set of recipes. So these recipes can be executed. Now, let me see if it's in the documentation here. Please hold. One of the things that I have a hard time with, I'm a Spring developer advocate. I work closely with the Spring team. I get to hear what's happening and see things move differently than the public. So sometimes I get confused as what's been made public and what hasn't been. So let's go over here and let's look at this. And I want to see what's in here. So let me just stop here. I can define my own commands. So this is really what's kind of pulled me in. I can define my own commands to do my own things, to do things the way that I want to do my conventions, what I'm going to support in production. So, looking back in time, I had this similar idea of I start with Spring Initializer, I build some stuff. If you didn't know this, you can fork this open source project and you could put your own things on the menu and you can have it generate example code. We could do that. You could fork Spring Initializer and you could have sample code, just like we're doing here, just like we're doing with the Spring CLI. You could put all that sample code in here, but you still wouldn't be able to do the add and the merge part. So we're way fast. What I was doing, I created this project called Initializer++. Because I was, oftentimes I'm using the initializer to go and create things, but there's a set of things that I want to do after I initialize a project. There's some things, the conventions that I use on my path to production, and let's run those. Actually, this is a Spring Shell project that I created for my path to production. And Spring Shell gives me this nice help, so I can see all the commands that I put in there. If you're writing on my path to production, you would get this as a tool that you would, have in your development, right? This is one of those things that we would do for setting up your local environment. Here's our best practices. I was trying to codify it. I just took a different approach. Mine wasn't fancy. So I said, hey, there's some things I want to do. I could add some example classes. You can see how old it is. But I add this multi-arch builder. So let's do that. Let's add the multi-arch builder. It modified my code and it added the multi-arch builder. I also do the project. I have tab completion, description, project name, project version, and I add some extensions. I think that's everything I do. So now I quit. I go and take a look. I didn't do the git commit, but I can show you what we've got here. So in my POM now, it has my conventions for the name, my conventions for the version number, and I also added these extensions that I like to use. The way that I go to production is tagging in Git. I also have this to determine my operating system and architecture because I deployed a Raspberry Pis. I'm running on a Darwin Apple Silicon. So I do the native images, and this is the way I deploy to production. Now for this project, this is just Flyway. But you can see this idea of having a command line way of getting all these conventions to go forward, having something command line to upgrade me to the latest version. It's a pretty cool concept. So I can, on my backlog is I want to take what I'm doing in my Initializer++ and I want to make it these user-defined commands. Do the same thing, but as user-defined commands, and they'll just show up as a part of my list of commands. That's the idea. So that I don't have to maintain the Initializer++ anymore. I would like to move over to this because there's so much more that I get out of what's available in the Spring CLI. So let's keep on going. All I did was add the Flyway core, and I see that I've got these folders, DB migration and application properties. Now, it's been a while since I used Flyway, so let's go take a look. See if we can find something good. Here we go. Well, maybe let's keep on going. See if we can find a Flyway example. Like Flyway should alone initialize the schema using the basic schema.sql and data.sql. Oh, it says using the basic alongside Flyway or Looker base is not recommended and support will be removed in a future release. Okay. If you need to initialize test data using a higher level database migration tool, please see section about Flyway. Let's go there. Using Flyway for test only migrations. I don't think we want that. Let's see what's happening. Again, this is not stuff that I know off the top of my head. I haven't used it in a while. Hey, CodeCore, awesome. CodeCore says, hope your stream goes well today. Thank you. We're digging in. And another comment, and I can't see the name, Vokio. I hope I'm not mispronouncing. I'm not gonna lie, I missed to watch someone have so much fun and excitement for spring again, right? Like that. I do. Haven't seen it for a long time. It is a great time to be a Java developer right now, and it's an even better time to be a Spring developer. The Spring team is doing such amazing things. Java keeps on improving, and Spring is trying to keep up, and I think they're doing a pretty good job. So, yeah, it is a great time to be a Spring developer, and yeah, thanks for the comment. I appreciate that. So let's just keep on going. We're going to pull in here. We got a change log, change set. I kind of remember what things look like. Harpreet, do you have an example? Execute database at startup. I don't have like a good example. DB memory. So here we have some SQL. If you want to create Flyway migrations, which populate your test database, place them in here. Yeah, maybe that's what we want to do. Oh, this is in source test. But I want to do this for prod. Perhaps. I'm thinking about Harpreet's example, right? Where we're at when we start to bring in Flyway. I think we need like the default or baseline migration. I'm trying to think if I've got an example that I can pull from. Please hold. Or if you've got one, like feel free to throw out a link. Let's go to here, maybe. All right. Here is a schema. That's true. The Spring team is amazing. I'm happy to work with Spring in my job. I couldn't wish for more. You've probably seen a bunch of, like how to pass the Spring Cloud interview or whatever, how to pass the Spring boot cloud, whatever it is. I have opinions on interviews. It's weird. There's still a lot of gatekeeping in the world, and it's a little frustrating. And I don't know how to fix things. But one of the things that I'm a firm believer in is if you come and you're interviewing for a position on my team, I'm going to try to get a sense of what you do, but I'm going to, like, it's your turn to interview me. If I ask you to do a Spring Boot, or I ask you to do a code exercise on the wall, if I ask you to do, when you're interviewing on my team, I think that the power dynamic just needs to be balanced out a little bit. So if and I'm not saying anything about if you want to know if somebody actually can do the things that they put on the resume, you want to ask them to do a code example. My belief is they should be able to ask you. That's it. If that's the way that you're going to do your hiring, if I've asked you to do a coding example on the wall, I should be able to, right? Or vice versa. It should be like, hey, So now let me see how you do it here. Let me see how you do an example that I've come up with in your pseudocode. Because you're asking me if I'm good enough for you. I might not want to come work for you. You've asked me to do a live code, thing on the whiteboard. Fantastic. When it's my turn to ask questions, I would like to see how you solve this. I have an example of what I've done, and I want to know if you're the right fit for me. This is you can hear me get passionate about it. So I'm not saying I have any problem with doing the live code, interview, whiteboard stuff. But in order to fix this power dynamic, and in order to, hey, so what? I passed the whiteboard. I want to know that you're good enough for me. So one of the things that I'm saying, that when you're going in and you're looking to go work on Spring Boot, you're excited about working with Spring, right? As you should be. Like, ask questions. What version of Java are you taking to production today? When do you plan to take Java 22, which is going to be out later this month? Like, what's your time frame? What's your goal? Right? It's early access. It's not GA, so I wouldn't expect you to say Java 22 today. But if you're interviewing for a Java role, when they ask you, do you have any questions? Yes, you do have questions, because there's a big difference between the company that's going to production with Java 21, for me anyways, and Java 8. And I whisper. I don't like to say Java 8 very loud. It's been around for a long time. Right? In my house. Right? Again, I've been lucky enough to get to do this with my kids. Anyways, in my house, if I say Java 8, my son he'll be like, "What? Java 8?" Like, he'll flip out. Why is anybody using Java 8? So this whole, like, Spring, you're interviewing and you're asking, like, hey, there was a thread, a friend of mine on LinkedIn, right? This is why it's been top of mind, and they were talking about the whiteboarding interview styles. Like, I whatever the approach is, okay, cool. All I'm saying is I want to balance the playing field. So if you come and work for me, anything that I'm asking of you, I expect that you're going to ask the same of me, because it's a two-way street. We have to be on the same team. It can't just be, one side checks all the boxes and then you don't ask any questions, and then you get in and you find out that this place is trash. I don't want that for you. I want you to ask questions. What versions are you using? What versions, right? There's a big difference. And a lot of companies are already on Spring Boot 3. Right? I'll say Spring Boot. Ask these questions. Because you just finished their whiteboard coding example, and then they tell you, oh yeah, we're going to production with Java 8 and Spring Boot 2.2. Is that really the place that you want to go work? Right? Yeah, ask these questions. What database are they working with? So yeah, sorry about that little tangent. It's just been, it's top of mind. And I want you, anybody listening, I care, right? Nobody ever gave me that advice. But I know there's a lot of gatekeeping, and I know that interviews aren't always fair for everybody. So that's all I'm saying, is for questions that you get asked, take your time and do your diligence during the interview process, just like they're doing theirs. An interview should always be a two-way street. And whatever you claim, this is from CodeCore, and whatever you claim should be valid to test, but you have to test it fairly, right? That's fine, right? Like, I get it. Like, there's a whole, like, trust thing, and yeah, lots of people are putting stuff on their resumes. I get it. But also, don't Don't tell me that this team is top notch, best of the best, and we want hard workers and all that kind of stuff. When you're interviewing me and you can't answer one of my questions. I want to put you on the seat. I want to see, right or wrong, I want to see how you handle my questions. Because that's what I'm going to be faced with when I come and work for you. Yeah. So another one from Code Core, having an answer and being able to explain the how and whys is more important than the correct answer, in my opinion. Right. A lot of times, right? Here's the other thing. Like the whiteboard coding examples, they're not going to be analyzing your syntax or anything like that. If you're talking it through, and again, this is my how to pass the interview. If you're talking it through, right, don't panic. Even it doesn't have to look like code. You can draw like, hey, I know this from this example that I've done in the past. I know this from this example, and just start writing. Think out loud, much like I do here, right? And that's going to help. But then also, know that no matter what you answer and how you answer, right, good or bad, if you don't know the answer, that's okay too, right? That's okay too. If something, hey, that's all right. Say it. Honesty is a big deal. So yeah, I'm just saying, the one thing I want you to walk away with is next time you interview them. Make sure you're landing in a good spot. That's one way, I think, that we can level things off. And if they're not willing to be interviewed, for me, that's not a place where I want to go work. Right? If the people that are interviewing me are not willing to be interviewed, that's not where I want to work. So yeah, let's keep going. We're doing this. We're talking about Flyway. Harpreet says, hey, let's get the example from Baildong. As much as I don't like that site. And the reason I don't like it because it's outdated a lot. So even though it says it's updated, let's go see. So yeah, that's late. That's recent, right? Let's just see what we got here. See, I don't think that's late. But anyways, it says it's updated. I'm not sure it's actually updated, but we'll see. Learning the basics, inheritance, abstract class, polymorphism, interfaces, record. Yes. Yeah. An important part. Know the basics. That's a good idea. So hey, we're gonna use this. And yeah, updating from one to the other. The thing that I know. So they're using the Flyway Maven plugin. I don't think that came in our example, did it? So we did not get the plugin when we went to Initializer. This example did not have the Flyway Maven plugin included. So that's one thing that we got to note. What keyboard do I use? It is a Vortex something. VTG 8200. I like it. I like it a lot. I don't know the specs, but I do. I like it a lot. Yeah, that's all I can say. I like it. The keyboard does make a difference. And yeah, and I'm a thumball person. Yeah, as much as I try to do things on the keyboard, I try to stay on the keyboard as much as possible. I like the mouse as well. It has arrow keys. I think it's an 80%. Let's look it up. VTG 8200. VTG 8200. Let's go check. Vortex VTG 8200. I've had it for a while. I don't know where I got it. Let's see if we can find another example. It looks kind of like the Race 3. Here we go. Oh, it is the Race 3. So yeah, that's what I got. I think that's what it looked like. Maybe it is the Race 3. So it says 8200 on the back. Maybe it is just that Race 3. Clicky, clicky. Sorry about the distraction. Race 3. What? Maybe? Yep. This keyboard layout is the same. So I don't know if that's the 8200. So not the same SKU. But yeah, that's what it looks like. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan. And I got the cherry reds. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I should probably put that down. I get asked that quite a bit. So let's go back. Let's go back here to our example, and we're trying to say like, hey, how do I bring this into a new project? And this example is using the Flyway Maven plugin, which I think is what I did. The latest version of the plugin is available here. We configure the plugin this way. See, I'm not sure that's what I need to do. So I'm looking, I'm learning at this same time. So I apologize as I'm reading. I want to go example migration, Flyway config. Really? See, I don't think this is the way that we do things. We definitely need to define that first migration. So I think this is right in DV migration. So we're going to go here and we're going to do the V100. So this is what I want to put in here. I'm going to put a new file. V1, what was their convention? Whoops. I do have my my work, my day job. Hello. Trying to improve my typing skills. Do you type with 10 fingers? Yes, I do. And I'm a big. My kids got their own little keyboards. You might be able to see it back there. I don't know if you can. Right there. There. That's my son's keyboard. As they learned how to type, I took the keys off, like as they're figuring out their home screen or their home base for their fingers. We pop off the letters and we replace it with something that they know. So they were doing that for a while. You know, as they were figuring out things, we'd change the letters out and take them away. But I went through the same process. I was able to type, but I had a hard time where I kind of like cheated my way through the number keys, and I wasn't, you know, comfortable with what was on that number row. So while I was having them do it, I did the same thing. I took off all my keys, and I'm gonna start to practice learning how to do all the things on my keyboard. So yes, I do. So my keys, there are no letters or numbers on those, as I'm trying to practice what I preach, right? So yes, I do practice. I do try. And I'm trying to get better, right? I'm a better typer now than I was, 2 years ago. So we're here. I'm going to do this V1, I'm going to say 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, baseline.SQL. Does that work? As our example. And we're going to, not that. We're going to grab a schema that I've got existing. Here we go. So this is the idea that we have to have a baseline. So wherever your baseline is, and I pulled this from an example, right, of my here, right? Like I try to do things in public as much as possible. Streams past, we did this Java Grunt service YouTube, and this is videos that are on my YouTube channel. And this is the schema. This is the schema as it sits today. And maybe that schema will change later. So a tool that you might use to do your database migrations is Flyway. So here I'm giving an example of a baseline SQL, but I probably also want to have a way of executing that migration in this example. So let's just keep on going. So hey, we're doing things. This is the Flyway migrate. See, I don't know that this is necessarily the way I do it. I'll say this. The Flyway migrations, I'm not a big fan of them being done as part of a deployment. I want the code deployed. I want my migrations to happen separately as a separate task. And this is something that I've seen burn people and cause problems. So instead of deploying new artifact to get the Flyway migration to execute, I would rather you do that as a separate task. So I'll leave that there. But hey, we still want to know, how do we bring Flyway? You have to start with a baseline. Like, what does your schema look like today? And that's what we're doing. We're like, here's our baseline. And then we want to migrate. We want to do something. So hey, here's the database, the result in our first successful migration. So where was the from to? We want to see what's our next migration. I think I can do this standalone. Define the second migration. So I don't think I need this. I'm thinking if I can execute this locally. I didn't bring in Postgres and test containers. What's the good way to show this? But bottom line is, hey, I want to bring in this. I've got the dependencies, but what's the way that I execute it? Let's just run this command, Flyway migrate. Let's see what happens. I don't have a database up and running. I just want to see what happens. Oops. MW Flyway migrate. I feel like it should have some defaults defined already. So unable to connect to database, configure the URL. So now I don't think that the service connector from the test containers will work, even though I'd like it to. So that's where it's getting this Flyway config. How do I want to do this in production? So I'm sorry that I'm skipping over the 101. Like, what's the example? How do I want this set so that we can do this in production and go forward? So they're passing in this config. Can I get that as an environment variable? That would make me feel better. And I probably can, right? I can probably just define all of these things as environment variables. So let's do this. And if I'm going too far off track, Harpreet, let me know. But we're exploring, like, here's the example of, we want to bring in Flyway, and we want to start adding Flyway to our org. How do we do that? So it's working. I have all the stuff, but I'm going to upgrade this example by doing one thing. I'm going to go over here to my initializer, and I'm going to add Postgres and test containers. I think that's all I should need, right? Let's add this. here, putting it in the same spot. And then after our starter test, we're going to add our Spring Boot test. Test containers. Oh, we have a couple more test dependencies. We're going to pull those into. So I'm just trying to make this baseline Flyway example a little bit better. But I'm also going to add this piece. Because, yeah, absolutely. So down here, I've got a new class, test Flyway migration, no, just Flyway application. Oops. Yeah, that's good. Let me pull those dependencies in, reindex, and we're good. So now, this Flyway example, this Flyway project that I'll add to my project catalog. This, I can do the Spring Boot test run, right? I can do Spring Boot test run. It's going to do its thing. I don't have a plugin fired up, but hey, it said, yeah, I can stand things up. What I want to do is execute that. So I'm trying to think of like, what's the bare minimum example of having Flyway added to a project. So Harpreet, let me ask, are you using, it doesn't matter. I kind of want the bare minimum. So I'm going to stop here and I want to add this, even though it's not doing a whole lot. All I've really got here is a dependency with Flyway core, and I've got a baseline migration. That's it. So we haven't migrated any code. We haven't done anything, but I want to try something out. I want to do this. We're going to do a git init. And for this project that we just stood up, I'm going to say git commit. This is Flyway with baseline script, but doesn't have a plugin, doesn't have anything else. But how, right? How do I want to add those data source properties? Do I want to add that as a file in this project? Because I don't want database properties sitting on my command line. That's not something that I would have. At a minimum, or at most, let's get add. What I would recommend is like an envrc. This is my pattern, right? So let's do that. New file.envrc. Let's add that. And this is where I might want to put these properties. And the way we can do that with Spring, I believe, let's see. So here's some properties, flyway.user, flyway.database. Let's go grab all that stuff. And let's do it this way. So I'm going to do export flyway. I think I want to do it this way, right? And I think these have to be all caps. Isn't this the way that I get environment variables pulled into Spring? And then what I would do, again, I have another example of this. I don't remember all the details. So here, I can put all those same properties, boop, except I don't want them coming in and being a part of my code. What I want them to be is, again, I'm going to go grab another example. I want to get them from my environment dollar. I think it's like this dollar. Yeah, DB password. Let's do that. Flyway.schemas. Oh, that's the, yeah, dollar database schema. Flyway URL. So what I'm saying here is I want I want you to provide these. I want to get these values though from the environment, right? I don't want to commit code that says, hey, here's the test schema or the dev schema or the prod schema. I don't want that in my database or in my code example. I want to point to references. It says, these are the environment variables that I want you to pass into me in order to execute this migration. Files, do I need this? Do I need this part? That seems like that's the default, right? I believe that's the default. So I don't think I need that. And that I might want to leave it as the default. I'm gonna leave that one there. That shouldn't change across environments. All right, so are you following me on this so far? I wanna provide these examples. I would then provide the DB password in an environment variable here. Export DB password equals, and then you can pass that in, right? And I'll put that in my repository. So this is not gonna get pulled in, but this is the approach, the example that I wanna pass. No, it was URL. Password, schema, and URL. Hello. Password, schema, and URL. Password, schema, URL. So this is how I'm going to pass those properties in. So this is my reference. This is my example that we'll pass, but we're going to add all this. Allow. Cool. So I'm setting up the schema. Like, hey, I'm showing an example of how we do this. Right, for our projects, right? The baseline schema is probably going to be different, but this is an example. It's example code of how we run this. You know what else would be valuable is, let's add, watch this. I have a initializer -- help. I have an add readme. What happened? Oh, it's initializer ++, not -- help, just help. Add readme. So I go initializer ++ add readme. It gives me, again, my convention for how I do a project. And this readme, in that readme, I will say quick start. I can have this section, bash. And I can say --nvnw, Flyway, : migrate. This is the example. This is the command. This is how I'm going to pass this out to the rest of my team. I put the quick start into a README. Now let's add that. The status. We got a bunch of files. We have an example. We haven't connected to it, ran it against a database, but this is what we're doing. So here, I want to go and add this to my project catalog. Again, bringing it back to Spring CLI. Sean, project catalog. I want to have an example that you can pull in. If you want to pull in Flyway DB, this is how you do it. This is the pattern that we're going to go to production with. So, let's just go back here. We can do it from here. I can say GitHub repo create -- public Deshaun project catalog / Flyway DB. Boom. So cool. We have Flyway DB is now a repo in my GitHub. And I can go and grab those. Oh, hello. I can go and go look at, hey, here's what we need to do. All right, I already did my commit, I think. Git commit, first pass. Good, and then let's just push it up. So now in my project catalog, I've got an example of here's how we do Flyway DB. Oh, I didn't fix all this stuff. I'll do that real quick. Yes. I have to change the org. Replace org with Deshaun - project catalog. And then repository name. Let me replace that with what I call it, FlywayDB, FlywayDB. And then, what is this? Is it? Let me fix that real quick. Git add dot git commit fix readme git push. So now I've got an example directory repository that has, hey, here's how we do things. But now I want to add it to another project. I want to add FlywayDB to another project. So let's go to another project. Here we were in downloads demo, right? This is the project that we started off at the beginning, and we did not have FlywayDB. But if I wanted to add it to an existing project, Spring boot, oh, what did I call it? I didn't put it in my catalog. Let's go fix that, sorry. I also need to put it into my catalog. CD, fund, Sean, dash, project catalog, and then into project catalog. So this is what's on the menu. These are the things that we support going forward, and this is what I've passed out to all my developers. So as I upgrade these things, as I'm adding more stuff to the menu, they get it. So let's go and add something else to the menu. Let's add Flyway. FlywayDB migration tool. And that project catalog, it was in FlywayDB. We already updated that and updated it. It's Java 21, Spring Boot 3.2, tags, Flyway. Right? Nothing else. Hello. Right? We didn't do anything else fancy, so there's my tags. Let's do this. Git add dot git commit add Flyway to the menu. Whoops. All right, so now it's on the menu. Let's see if that automatically gets pulled. I want to go back to the demo project where we're going to add Flyway, and I say Spring project list, and Flyway's on the menu. Now I want to commit what I got here. Git add dot git commit. Added. We added JPA and REST just because I want to show the diff, right? So we'll get status, everything has been committed. Now I want to do Spring boot add Flyway. This is how I get it out to everybody else. Hey, here's our migration tool. We're using it. It's going to go and grab that project. Now remember that project, it says com.javagrunt, right? What we put in the repository here was com javagrunt. Watch what it does. Oh, look at this. It actually did pull in my .envrc file. So look, I brought in a test Flyway application. So it didn't merge. That's okay because they're not named the same. But I can see that they've got the same bits underneath. That's fine. Again, we'll get there. But it brought in my README. So for each one of the projects that I've added here, I also got a README that tells me about those bits. So I'm passing, not only am I passing, hey, here's how we do things, but I'm giving the documentation to that repository as well. So here, let's do this. Get status. So hey, here's the environment changes that you want to make. In my head, I want to be able to merge those. But then, hey, here's the README. So I've got a README file for the bits around Flyway migrations. It put the example file. So I've got to basically add an example. This is cool. This is really, really cool to me. Oh, and then also, it refactored my classes into the right package names. Remember, I was doing com Java grunt, and it refactored the stuff that I put in. So it's merging things again, and like we're just scratching the surface, right? This is on a 0.8.1. We are just getting started. The Spring team is just getting started. Mark Pollock specifically. This is cool. This is how we bring in Flyway DB to a project. So now I'm in this existing project. What I would need to do is go and capture that baseline of what's running in prod, and I'd bring in that baseline, and I'd have it here. The next thing I would do is I'd say, hey, what do I want to migrate to? We can go over here to this example. And here's what we're going to do. We'll just go ahead and take this. I will say, hey, here's what we're going to do. What are the commands that we're going to run against our database? We're going to make a new file. 0.0.0.0.02. What is it? Departments. Do you name it like a migration? Oh, so there he goes. Create department. Okay, so this is, now I've got the tools in, and I've got the little README, and here's how I'm going to execute it. But I want to create, this is my migration. I want to go from what I had to adding these bits. That doesn't look good. Why does it say in generic SQL? That's fine. No data sources. I don't need that. I just want it to be pretty. Why is this being silly? Create table if not exists, blank. I want to make it pretty for you. Oh, because we got these things in here. Lame. That's fine. Anyways, we're going to do this, name bar car. What is this? Oh, bar car 20. Boop. I'm just cleaning up, sorry. That's my OCD. Let's make it look similar enough. So, hey, here's what we're doing. No inspection SQL, blah, blah, blah. I don't necessarily need that. Oh, sorry. And then alter table employee. I'm going to take these ticks off. Add department ID. Int after. Anywho, here's what we would do. We'd add another migration to our resources, to our DB migrations, and then I could migrate. It would build my version 1, and if I recall, Flyway will then also do version 2. I think there was an order. We don't want that. Spring.flyway.enabled. Yeah, I don't want this. If we want to disable automatic Flyway migration on startup, Yeah, we don't want that. I would say Spring Flyway enabled false. Don't do that inside of your, again. We can talk about that if we need to. But yeah, this will get us started. But I want to see, like, we can roll back with Flyway. Like, that's the thing, is I don't want to just do all of them all the time. Maybe I want to only go up to 1.0 or only go up to 3.0. And there's a way of passing that config in. I don't know off the top of my head. So I'm just reading. We can also configure the plugin by specifying config properties. Yeah. And I can pass all of this in by my my environment variables. Yeah, I think the way that I have it set up here, this is the way that I would go to production with it. Oh, it didn't bring in my application.properties. So I'm gonna make a to-do on that. I don't know how to handle it, but I want to just do this. I kind of feel like if you are bringing in, you did the Spring Boot add Flyway. See down here, we've got like the Flyway README. I feel like maybe I should have some application properties. I'm not sure if I want to merge them. I probably don't want to overwrite anything, but maybe if I would like bring in an application dash flywaydb.properties, so that I had the example that I pushed here, right? So to know that, hey, these are the things that we typically look for. I'm not sure how to handle that. I'd want it to fit. I would want it to fit in with the conventions that are already provided by Spring CLI. And I'm just getting started. This project's just getting started. So yeah, we'll continue to move forward. So Harpreet, where are you getting stuck? If you're using FlywayDB, where are you getting stuck? And let's see if we can just jump in and get you unstuck. That's the important thing. So I wanted to show like, hey, today, if I was wanting to add FlywayDB to my projects, this is what I would do. This is the approach I'd take. I'd make a project catalog with Spring CLI and say, here's the source code that you need. I know that when I merged it, it would show, hey, here's where your migrations are going to be. I probably didn't need to add the Flyway application test, but in order to make this a running project, because I could also start this as a new, maybe what I would do is I would add my FlywayDB to my Spring Data JPA project. Maybe that's what I do. I just update this project because I can always do this, right? Let's say I updated my Spring Data JPA, which I had already pulled into this project, but I can do this again, right? Spring Boot add JPA. There's nothing wrong with that. It's going to merge in those changes. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's do that as our example, because that'll make the FlywayDB part a little bit smarter. So let's do that. Hey, it didn't do anything, right? Get status. Didn't do anything. Now I can't remove, unfortunately, but I did it as a diff, so I can do this. I can say rm.envrc, because I didn't commit it yet. Rm readme Flyway. Rm source main resources db. Let's do that. Draft, right? Rm source test example source test java com example demo Flyway and test Flyway. So we've effectively rolled back, get status to where we were. Oh, I didn't revert my palm. Let's go and pull this out. Get status, and let's remove this. Wait. Yeah. Get rem source main resources db -r. All right, so cool. Get status. We've reverted. We're good. Now let's do it. Do the same thing. Let's give our Flyway DB example, but we're going to deliver it as a new feature. So everybody, hey, yeah, you've been using Spring CLI, but now we're upgrading our best practices around Spring Data JPA. Let's see how that works. CD, RPT, Spring Data, JPA. This is the example. This is the practice. I go in here to idea dot. Oh, watch this. Watch this. In my example project where I have Flyway. Oh, geez. Like this, just this idea. I can say Spring boot add Flyway. Right, because it exists there already. And it's going to merge the Flyway bits into my Spring Data JPA bits, just like you would. And now look. The status. It added the envrc file. It added the README for Flyway. I got source main resources. Oh, wait, this time, oh, it was smart. If there was an application properties there already, it didn't overwrite it. But because there wasn't one in this project, it gave me my application properties. What? Like, so now we know the conventions, right? How cool is that? And then it gave me my baseline SQL. So now I can go to production with this. I can say, hey, here, fill in these values. This is what we're going to get. I'm saying I want these to come from an environment variable. I don't have to add this, really. But here we are. I've now added, I also updated my POM. What did it add to my POM? Flyway core, the Spring Boot starter. I don't think it necessarily needs that because we have the other ones. I'm going to pull that out. And this is why this is a better example than the Flyway piece as a standalone. Pull it out. I don't really want H2. I'll leave it. But I'm going to take out Postgres because it's not really just about Postgres. I'll take this out. And these. And maybe this is what I'll go to. Add Flyway core. We're in good shape. Git status. Git add dot. Oh, that Flyway. I'm gonna put it over here. I'm gonna take this. And I'm gonna put this over here. Migrations. Oop, there it is. It's included. It's included in this repository, and now it's in your documentation. So let's add that. Do I want these Flyway application tests? No. I'm gonna take those out. Delete. Hit status. So this is the way. Oh, I'm gonna remove this one too. We're doing things live. Like, I'm thinking through this. We want to make this simple. Going back, wouldn't it be nice if we could onboard everybody to Flyway as easy as this? Give them some examples, give them some instructions on how to do it. Get status. Yeah, and I'm showing you, like, here's how we improve our best practices going forward. I can go and update the Spring Data JPA. Right? Git commit add Flyway DB. I can push that out so that for all the teams that they were using the best practices, they were already building projects off of Spring Data JPA, and they could start their projects, right? It wasn't just adding. I can also do Spring Boot New and give me a Spring Data JPA project. So here, not here, let's go back to our demo. Here, get status, which we were using Spring Boot add JPA. We did that already, but upstream got improved. Our upstream best practices have improved. So we do Spring Boot add JPA. It's going to merge in those changes. It's going to merge those changes into my POM because there's changes. It's going to update my docs, I hope. Let's see. Oh, it didn't update it. So it didn't update it. Okay, it was already there. But again, still, this is pretty cool. Now I've got Flyway, and I've got some example migrations. This is pretty cool. I'm happy. Whoops. That's pretty slick, huh? So this onboarding idea, like, how hard should it be? How hard should it be to fall in line with the best practices, right? What if you've never used Flyway? Like, that makes things easy. That's why I'm excited about Spring CLI right now. If you've heard about Spring CLI, you probably heard about it from Spring AI. Most likely. This project is hot. And in the docs in Spring CLI, they actually they're using the Spring CLI on how to get started. So I can do that same thing too. So in our demo project, like, we can add the AI bits. Spring Boot add AI. Boom. Like, this is it. Now I got my simple completion and my open AI. Oh, why is this not? Oh, I have to hit this button. Pull it in. And now I'm ready to do AI. I just added Spring AI with sample code, so I know how to go forward. This is cool. This is very, very cool. Oh, and then here's my instructions. It merged things in as packages, so you're not clobbering each other. Right? This is smart. This is great. This is a good way of moving forward. So this is my jam. I confirmed some assumptions. I learned a little bit more today around this. Let me go check. I think I'm missing a meeting. And I am. So I'm going to jump now. This has been fun. Harpreet, if you've got more questions, you know how to get a hold of me. And yeah, and thanks for joining. This has been fun. I'm excited about Spring CLI. You should take it for a spin. Let's go and throw that up here. Let's do this. Here, take it for a spin. Let me know what you think. There we go. And if you had fun, we'll try to do this again tomorrow. I'd love for you to follow me over on YouTube. over on Twitch, over on Kick. We're doing good stuff. Tomorrow morning, it might be an earlier one because I do have some other meetings. But when I don't have meetings, this is where I'm going to be in the morning. Harpreet, I appreciate your feedback. I hope things are going well. Thanks for joining us so late for you. I appreciate it. And yeah, I hope to see everybody again soon. Thanks.